welcome to episode 34 of All the Stitches, which is Flosstube number 3. My name is Colleen and I'm coming to you from the Lakes region of New Hampshire in the United States. Today's episode is going to be sort of a retrospective of my life in kind of cross stitch. It's not as bad as it sounds. I started cross stitching a little bit on and off, probably in the late 80s. Through high school and beyond, I was a crewel stitcher, embroidery, that kind of thing, needlepoint. And I tried a little bit of kind of cross stitch. You know, it wasn't the same back then. There were a lot of little cutesy things to stitch, but not a lot of choices. So I lost interest in that. I really got involved in quilting, and that was kind of the end of my stitching life until more recently. I've shown some of these pieces in my regular All the Stitches episodes, maybe one at a time, two at a time. But because I have this wonderful new audience of Flosstube viewers, I thought I would go back and anything that I haven't shown on a Flosstube before, Flosstube 1 or Flosstube 2, I'm going to go back to the beginning and show all of that. I'm not going to get into too much detail. I'll put as much description as possible in the description bar below where it says more. Click on that and it will open up to information that you might be looking for. If you have any questions about anything, I'm happy to try to find the answers and put them in the comments below as well. So thank you and welcome. Welcome back. Did I say that? I'm going to get started right away with some of my early stitches. And mind you, I don't have my earliest pieces because they were gifts or they were just things that sort of disappeared through the years. And, so I no longer have. The first cross stitch that I have, the piece that I still have that I remember doing is excuse me, I'm going to be looking off to my right here because I have some notes. But it was the 1984 Prairie Schooler Santa. This was the first Prairie Schooler Santa I ever stitched. And it's been framed for years and years. And I keep thinking, I actually left it out of the Christmas box this year when I put them all away because I think I'm going to take it apart and soak it to wash it a little bit. It's a little grungy. So, but there he is anyway in all his splendor. It's a 1984 Prairie Schooler and the first Prairie Schooler Santa I stitched. And I probably stitched it pretty close to around that time in 1984 or sometime around there. Another early piece that I have is I can't credit this anywhere. I don't have any information as to where it came from, but it's a little quilt blocks and it says, "When life hands you scraps, make quilts." And I just thought that was perfect because I'd had a lot of scraps at that point and I was really making a lot of quilts. And you'll see quilts sort of become a theme in a lot of my stitching. Recently, when I picked up cross stitch again, more recently, I redid this. This was in a frame that was kind of an ugly frame, and I just think it didn't go well with it. And I did take it apart and soak it to give it a little, brighten it up a little. And I used that restoration powder to soak needlework, and I find that it works great. So then I took it apart, I took it out of the frame, and then I built a little quilt around it, which I thought was perfect for a quilting theme. And I made this in 1988. My next piece that I still own is the quilting. Oh, a theme of quilts. All right, I'm going to be dealing with the light, the window. Just going to have to deal with it. This is a pattern from Told in a Garden. It's an oldie. Let's see. I did not date this. Oh, I did date it. 1987 is when I stitched it. It probably came out around then. And as you can see, I once again incorporated quilting into my cross stitch. Then guess what? Years went by. That was 1987, like I said. I got so involved in quilting and then knitting, and then I really lost interest in any kind of needlework except maybe occasional embroidery. And but then in 2019, I had some knee surgery. So quilting was really not an option for quite a while because I just couldn't sit at a sewing machine. And I thought, well, I'll lose my mind if I have to just sit and not do anything. So I picked up a chart from Holt called The Quilter's Cottage. And it was interesting. I thought it was easy because, and I really needed easy at that point, but it's a 10 count fabric, 10 count Ada, which, wow, it was huge. But it was really what I needed, and it sparked an interest for me. There are those quilts again, they keep appearing. But it really sparked that interest for counted cross stitch again, as well as I have a couple of friends who are really into counted cross stitch. At that point, it might have been just one friend who was really getting into it, and it, you know, isn't it something when you have friends working on certain things, you just, it's contagious. You know, I watched what she did and I thought, oh, that might be something for me. But I struggle with vision and not being able to really see fine linens and things like that. So I struggled for a while with that until I sort of came to a comfortable spot, and I'm still working on it. I'm trying to get down. I've gotten as far as 25 count Lugana, and I always say Luguna when I say that word, Lugana. And but anyway, I'm getting there. I bought a piece of 32 count linen, so that's going to be my next challenge. But anyway, once I did that in 2019, I was off and running, and I just needed to do more. These are a little out of order, but you don't know that, so it doesn't matter. But I'll tell you, this I did in 2020. This is called Welcome Moose. I finished it in 2020. I actually made it in 2020. I had this kit. It was a kit. I don't know the details of where it came from, except I believe I got it from the stitchery. It could very well have been 123 Stitch, and it's still available. I saw it recently. But I had this kit. I put it aside. I said, someday I'll make that. And one day I was actually going to my machine quilter, who lives really off in the country, and I saw a moose get hit, and I don't know if I got hit, but something happened to it, and it was on the side of the road, and everyone in cars seemed all right, so I don't know really what was going on, but he was a big bull moose, and he was on the road, and I felt so awful. That really haunted me for a long time, and because I love moose. So I came home and I dragged this kit out, and I stitched this up, always thinking about that poor fellow who came to the end of his time on Earth. But so this is for that moose. So then I started looking at some old UFOs, and quite a few years before I had started some other counted cross stitch pieces. And like I said, I had been struggling a little bit with the vision and being able to see them well. But then, you know what happens? Your eyes, you know, as your eyes change and you get new prescriptions, and all of a sudden you're kind of hit on, and you people my age will know this, all of a sudden you kind of hit on, your eyes stop changing so much, you find the right pair of glasses, and it works. And I don't like magnification, for those who are saying just use a magnifier. I'm not really happy using that. But anyway, I picked these pieces up, these long unfinished pieces, and finished them. This one is Heart and Hand, and it is called Autumn Medley. I had started this, put it down, and so then I finished it up, and again made it into a little quilted wall hanging. Well, that led me to the next one, which is also by Heart and Hand, and I had also barely started. And this one is the Winter Medley. This one I did in 2020, and it is, oh no, this one I did in 2021. And it is from the Drawn Thread, and it is called Generosity. I have a thing for sheep and moose, and dogs, and animals. If you've watched before, you know all that. So this, I love this one. It says, "Little lamb, my gentle friend, gives up his coat as snows begin to make my mittens, scarf, and hat, and I stay warm because of that." I went to a stitching show and several years ago in Nashua, New Hampshire, and I just loved everything I saw. And I went with those stitchy friends, you know, who were doing very fine work, and I loved everything, but I knew I couldn't do it. But the one thing I did, I couldn't go to a show and not buy anything, but I did buy this pattern. And I talked to the nice lady in the booth, and I said to her, "I don't know if I can do this, but I love it." And she said, "Well, you don't have to use linen. You can use Aida, and it's okay," you know. So it took me a while to get up my courage, but I finally did it, and I'm so glad I did. This this was a smaller. Up until now, I'd only used 14 count Aida, and I went to 16 count with this, and I actually got it done, even with all those color changes and all that. And I used my own colors for this one because I wanted it to be a lot different than the pattern. But this one gave me a ton of confidence, and then I went from there. I had been making Prairie Schooler Santas, but not really finishing them, and not really knowing what I was going to do with them. I know I didn't want like a million little 5x7 Prairie Schoolers framed all over the walls. But so I just put them aside. And then I decided, with the other things I'd made, I said, well, I could make a little quilt. So I took 3 of the Prairie Schoolers that were, I call this my Crafty Santas, And you see, there's the quilting Santa, the knitting Santa, and here's the sewing Santa. And I just took them and put them into a little quilted banner. And if you saw my last Flosstube, Flosstube 2, you saw I did another one of these with Santas that had animals with them, and I call that my All Creatures Great and Small Santas. My next one I did last fall. Nope, time flies. Sweater Weather by Plum Street Samplers. This is made in 2021. And I used the called for colors. I love this. I just think that's an adorable pattern. And again, once again, I made it into a little quilted piece. Boy, I can tell you, it saves a lot of money to be able to finish a piece like this. It's not good for everything, but it is good for some smaller pieces. Well, guess what? I got brave, and I went to, this is when I went to the 25 count Lugana. And this is Stitch Card C from Be In My Bonnet. And I stitched this in 2021. Normally you see these as separate little ornaments and things, but I really love them just all together in this piece. I framed it by just sticking them in a frame that's a little too big and putting a little fabric behind it, and added these little pom-poms that I call snowballs. This is something I finished fairly recently. I believe it was last year, for Betty. Betty White had just passed away, and she was a big animal advocate. And they were celebrating Betty's, what would have been her 100th birthday. by making a donation to an animal, humane society or shelter or something. So I did that, but I also decided I wanted to make something in her honor. So obviously home is where the dog is. I put my little black lab Pete in it. And he's also peeking out the window. And I promise we are almost at the end here. I'm sorry about the wrinkles, but this is also from Being My Bonnet. And it is what? Tell me what it is. Farm Girls Fall by Lori Holt. Can you see that all? I love these. They're simple little designs, but they're so cute. So I made it into a pillow that I just slip off. All right, speaking of fall, here's another. I have a bunch of little smalls here all over the place, so I'm gonna just start grabbing them. So this was one that I made last fall. Welcome Autumn by Plum Street Samplers. Just cute little pillow. And I put, to cover up the hole where I stuffed it, I put the little wool pumpkin. This is the Welcome Spring from Plum Street Samplers. On this one I made a little patchwork pillow from it, or out of it. These are fun, really, especially in the season, to just do something very seasonal and quick. Then I did Home Tweet Home. Did I say Plum Street Samplers for this? No, this is Primrose Cottage Stitches, as well as this. I think I said that wrong. I don't know. I'll go back and check. This is also Primrose Cottage Stitches. I went through this whole series of their patterns, and I just put that on a flat board. Last Christmas, for Pete's first Christmas, I made him this little ornament. Well, not for him, for our tree. He would eat it for sure. I didn't make this, but I'm going to show it to you anyway. My friend Jerry made this for Pete's first Christmas last year, and she's the one that does really fine, beautiful embroidery. So I love that. So cute. We're down to just a few little things, and that is the start of my little dough bowl. So I'm working on it. This is a knitted ornament that my friend Sue made for this year. Isn't it gorgeous? She does fine work. Really fine work. So beautiful. So I just put that in there because it's too beautiful to put away for the winter. I mean, for the summer. Here is Let It Snow. Once again, Primrose Cottage Stitches. Little pillow. This is Welcome Winter by Primrose Cottage Stitches. I put the 3 pines on the back in wool. And last but not least, I did a Biscorno, the Snowman Biscorno from Little Dove Designs. Oh, I love doing these. These are fun. These are really fun. I'm going to need to make another one. And guess what? That's it. I've done it. I've shown you all of my cross stitch. This is my history in cross stitch. And now you know as much as I do. I love to see someone else, how things originated, how they started, and where they are today. So that's why I decided to do it. I recently saw a video from a new Flosstuber called I think her name is Lauren, and it's New Hampshire Stitcher. And a young woman, and she's just amassed an amazing quantity of stitching, really beautiful, fine stitching. And one of her videos was showing her work at the beginning. Now, I should be ashamed of myself because her work at the beginning was already, I can't even do that now. So, but it doesn't matter. You begin where you begin, and we're all different. So I do hope you enjoyed seeing all that. I'll be back soon as I can with another floss tube. And hopefully, I'm hoping for a couple of finishes within the next couple weeks, few weeks, and I'll be back at that point. So until then, I hope all of your stitches bring joy. Take care. Bye-bye.